Okay, good morning. Good morning, good morning. So last week we were treated to Oswaldo. He was here presenting, right? And he shared this interesting idea that was inspired by Fillmore's Metaphysical Bible Dictionary. And in that, the sort of general idea is that the highest divine mind within us has really ultimate say over our experience, over our body. But the interesting part of that was that we can think of that highest divine mind within us as king, and our body as a country that is governed by that king or divine mind, or I might like to call queen. I would call it queen. You can call it whatever you want. And that all of the different organs and parts of our body are cities within that country, which I think is an interesting way to think about this. And taking it a step further, I would say that any wise king or queen wants to know what's happening in all of the different cities, right? Any wise king or queen wants to listen to the people in those cities and tell them, tell the king or queen what's going on, what's happening, what they need. Not necessarily what they'd like to have, but what they need. So we can kind of think of our mind and body in the same way. It's kind of this two-way communication. Yes, our mind, when it's connected to the highest divine mind, we might call that cosmic consciousness or Christ consciousness, has ultimate power to manifest peace and harmony in our lives and in our bodies. Yes, and that's the place from which we want to do our affirmative prayer work. We want to get into that consciousness when we're doing our affirmative prayer work. And at the same time, those cities are sometimes talking to us, sometimes wanting to communicate that maybe something needs attention, or that, a rebellion is brewing. I mean, when you got something going on in your body, it's sending a message that something needs to be adjusted, either physically or emotionally or spiritually. Something needs to be adjusted. And if we ignore that, those messages get more intense, right? And it shows up as pain, or it shows up as systems beginning to not function properly. So, in other words, the rebellion is underway. So, as I talked about a few weeks ago, it's not always easy to understand the messages our body is telling us. It just isn't. It's almost like the cities and the bodies, they're all speaking a foreign language, and we have to try to decipher what that is. So, it is a good thing to know that we have, in a sense, a Rosetta Stone, or a code-breaking system that helps us understand this. And that is the 12 powers. So if you're new and you're not yet really familiar with the 12 powers, it's really basically Charles Fillmore, his unique idea that we all have power centers within us, 12 power centers within us, that are really, each one is an access point to specific aspects of our spiritual power. And each one of these power centers, it corresponds to a physical location in our body. So, listening to that, really understanding what those powers represent, can give us a clue as to what that part of our body is trying to tell us. It can give us a clue, therefore, it may give us a clue to our healing. All right, what maybe needs to be adjusted. So I'm going to go through these 12 really briefly, because, it's long. So we're going to go briefly and just kind of listen. These are clues, these are possibilities, not written in stone, like the Rosetta Stone. But it's a clue. So if you hear something, you go, yeah, maybe that's something I need to work on, then, it maybe, hopefully will help. So let's go. All right, from bottom to top, the power of life corresponds to the reproductive organs, right? And by the way, this is in your handout, so you don't have to try to write it down. I did a little summary in your handout. Reproductive organs, right? So and it's associated, the power of a life is associated with that animating life force, that animating life energy. It's our power to move forward, onward, upward. So if there's anything going on there, we might, want to look at, has there been a diminishment of that life energy? Have we gotten stuck? Is there anywhere in our life where we feel like stagnating, or we've gotten stuck, or that diminishment of vitality, which is our ability to connect with and fully enjoy life? All right, so moving on up to the power of release, which corresponds to the organs of elimination appropriately. Right? So if you got any issues there, then you might want to look at, am I having difficulty, is it like, do I have a little bit of hoarding going on, and I'm having difficulty releasing physical things, or releasing old attitudes, or releasing resentments? If so, you might want to work at that. Now, if you got kind of the opposite thing going on, a little too free-flowing, then you might want to look at, it's like you're going, is she really talking about this, right? Minister here on the platform at a church is talking about this. If it's not practical, if spirituality isn't practical, what is it good for, right? So, so sometimes we get practical. So again, if that's the issue, you might want to look at your self-care. Are you giving love and nourishment to yourself, right? So look at that. Okay, so now we have the power of order, which corresponds to our organs of digestion. So the power of order, right? It's to know that the divine order, there is divine order, even when we can't see it, even when it looks chaotic, to know that there is divine order. So it's an issue of trust. And I know I have this going on too. So I'm working on this one. An issue of trust, of trusting the divine order is there even when I can't see it. You know how some people say, you've heard the expression, I can't stomach that, or that's hard to swallow. My mom used to say that a lot. She had a lot of stomach trouble too, And so there's a little bit of, I think it's about resistance. There's a resistance to what is. So a good affirmation here might be, I trust that everything is working together for my good. Let's say that together. I trust that everything is working together for my good. You can just sort of relax into that, right? Okay, so the next one we want to go around to the back here, and this is strength. The power of strength is located at the small of the back. Anybody got anything going on with the small of the back? So that really relates to our staying rooted in your spiritual power. Your spiritual power, and relying on that spiritual power to enhance your courage, your tenacity, the ability to stand undaunted in shifting circumstances. That's a good affirmation too. Let's say that. I stand undaunted in shifting circumstances. Yeah, that's a good one to work on. Okay, so the next one is wisdom, the power of wisdom. Not in the brain, as most people think. It corresponds to the solar plexus, which, I think Charles Fillmore was ahead of his time with this one, because science is now telling us that our gut Think gut instinct. Our gut is like a second brain, So there's that. So think about that. So if it's anything going on there, or any of the other internal organs are kind of in that area, we might want to work at the idea of developing a stronger sense of discernment. This is and separating discernment from judgment. We want to release the judgment. They're two different things, right? We want to release judgment and enhance that power of discernment. Also, the power of wisdom is associated with intuition. So we might want to develop a stronger relationship with our intuition, listening to the intuition, following it, all of those ideas, the power of wisdom. The power of love, of course, you know where that's located, right? Right here in the heart, right? So if you got, any issues with the heart, you might want to work at how can I open more fully to that infinite divine love that is pouring itself through me all the time, and just share that more widely. Sharing it more widely with, universal love, agape love. Also, the power of love is associated with that magnetizing power of our heart's desires. So that might be a fun place to play, right? That power of love is a magnetizing power for our heart's desires. All right? Okay, now moving on up, the power of power, which is located right here at the throat. You get sore throats a lot. I used to get sore throats a lot. This has to do with your spiritual authority, as you guys were singing. This is your power to speak your word, right? Speak your truth. And speak the word for good in your life and in the world. And also, sometimes these powers work better together. So the power of power is really good to work with wisdom. So we want to very often discern when it's a good time to speak up and when maybe it's a good time to keep it to ourselves. So the discernment, working with that spiritual authority. All right, a power of zeal is located right here at the back of the neck, right? So you got any neck issues? Oh, I do occasionally have neck issues. So that is the power of zeal, of course, is our zest for living, right? The zest for living. So has there been any, maybe has it waned, your zest for living as you've gotten older? Has it begun to wane? Or has it dampened because of what's going on in the world? So if so, this is the time to re-engage that power of zeal, that zest for living. Also, the shoulders are kind of here in that same area. So that kind of has to do with the same thing. But also, as I was talking to somebody, I think last week about this, and a lot of people are having shoulder issues these days. To me, the intuition is, well, do you feel like you're shouldering too much responsibility? Is it you're taking on too much? Do you feel overburdened? If so, time to lighten your load. And again, re-engage that power of zeal, of zest by doing things that you love. Okay, so now the next four powers are located in the head, in and around your head. So as I talk about them, just use your intuition to see if anything clicks for you, if you resonate with any of these ideas. All right, so the first is a power of imagination, which is kind of the third eye area. And this is our ability to picture what can be in the midst of its opposite. So, or what has not been yet, what hasn't been developed, to be able to see something that just hasn't been manifested yet, to be able to see peace and harmony in a world of conflict, that takes imagination. That takes the power to envision. So you might want to work on that. The next two powers are in the frontal lobe here. So the first one is the power of will, and that's the ability to decide, your power to decide, and then to make a commitment to seeing that through. To seeing through what you've decided, what you've chosen, a willingness to do what needs to be done to achieve a worthwhile goal. And then next to that is a power of understanding. That power of understanding, that's, comprehension, insight, realization. And that is also our ability to discover that connection between our thoughts and our feelings and what's going on in our body and our lives. What we're doing today, we are exercising our power of understanding by doing this kind of work. All right, last power of faith was just located in the middle of the brain. And the best way to describe that, I think, is just to use Charles Fillmore's definition of faith, which I think is so beautiful, and I want to read that now. Faith is the perceiving power of the mind linked with a power to shape substance. It is spiritual assurance, the power to do the seemingly impossible. It is a force that draws to us our heart's desires right out of the invisible spiritual substance. It is a deep inner knowing that that which is sought is already ours for the taking. The assurance of things hoped for. Isn't that beautiful? Yeah. All right, so these 12 powers, you see, these 12 powers can give us clues as to what our body might be telling us needs adjustment. Adjustment not just physically, but spiritually and mentally and emotionally, what we need to bring back in alignment, what we need to work on. And when we learn about the 12 powers and what they represent, and we learn to use them wisely, it can be a real game changer. So try this as your Rosetta Stone for, what's kind of going on there. All right, now let's look at it from the opposite side, the other side. Again, it's a two-way communication. So the mind, let's talk about the power of the mind. And the mind simply by changing how our body is, how we hold our body, it can change the internal chemicals in our body, which can in turn change our state, our emotional state. There's a few ways that we can do this, and I'll talk about two of them today. And the first one is intentionally smiling. So just turning up the corners of your mouth, and just kind of do that with me. Just kind of turning up the corners. And you might want to look around the room and seeing everyone else smiling, which makes it a little easier. Those of you with masks on, we're going to look in your eyes and know that you're smiling by the lines in your eyes, right? So when we see other people smile, we might even break into a laugh. So what's happening now is that healing hormones, chemicals, pushing through your body, they're healing, helping you to feel good, and you're feeling positive, and you're able to sort of see the good in things. You're able to see more optimistically. You not only see the possibility of something, but you feel like you have the ability to use that possibility, to make it work for you in your life. Thich Nhat Hanh has a smiling meditation. How many of you have done the Thich Nhat Hanh smile?
300 muscles in the smile.
Wow, 300. He says 300 muscles in your face that bring a smile. Wow, that's a lot. You can't smile and cry at the same time? Eh. Okay. All right. So here is the meditation that somebody over here is going, oh, I've done that before. Okay, here's the meditation. You can do this with me. It's very simple. And, he lives on YouTube, so you can watch these YouTube videos. So it goes like this. Inhaling, I calm my mind. Exhaling, I smile. Inhaling, I calm my mind. Exhaling, I smile. Inhaling, I calm my mind. Exhaling, I smile. Now imagine if you did that for 10 or 15 minutes at the beginning of every day. Your whole experience would change, right? Would change. Simply by changing intentionally with our mind, we intentionally change something, it can change our whole outlook on life. The second thing I want to talk about is I've mentioned it here many times before, and we've done this together, but we're going to do it again because there are some new people here, and also it's a good reminder. And this is power poses. Right? So Amy Cuddy, who is the social psychologist, Harvard lecturer, she also has a lot of popular TED Talks. She has done many studies that have suggested that just by the way we hold our body, it can release certain hormones that can affect our mood and how we feel about ourselves. So right now, just sort of hunch over, put your hands in your lap, just kind of stay hunched over for a little while. And if you held this here for 2 minutes or more, your mind would start to focus on negative things. And, how, what's wrong with you, what's wrong with the world. So we're not going to hold it there. Done, right? But you get the idea. Were you starting to feel that? Instead, we're going to do the power pose. So if it's comfortable for you to stand up, go ahead and stand up. All right, so yeah, you got it. The Superman or the Wonder Woman pose is like this. You can also do star pose if you've got strong arms, because after a while they start shaking. Or you can move from here to here, so your chest is up, puff of the chest, your chin is up, your hands are either reaching out or on your hips, your feet are wide, right? Chest up there, get your chest up, get your chin up, right? So what's happening right now is that the cortisol hormones are lessening. That's your stress hormone. They're lessening. And the testosterone and other hormones are rising. They're beginning to rise. And see, if we hold this here for a couple of minutes, we start to feel pretty confident, pretty good about ourselves. Powerful. Right? Not in your pockets, on your hip. Your hands on your hips. There you go. There you go. Yeah. All right, we're starting to feel like we're capable of tackling anything that comes at us. So this is really good to do before an interview, before a difficult conversation, before an experience that you're walking into that's new, that you're feeling a little tentative about. Always good to do this. What I like to do, this is my little secret sauce, is I do an affirmation while I'm holding my power pose. I say my affirmations, or I look at my vision board. That's another thing that I do. Look at my vision board while I'm holding this. So let's do an affirmation together. Let's go back to the I trust that everything is working together for my good. Let's say this. I trust that everything is working together for my good. And how about, I am a beautiful emanation of divine love. I am a beautiful emanation of divine love. Yes, you are. All right, you may be seated. So, yeah, doesn't that feel good? Just simply changing the shape of our body can change our internal chemistry, which in turn changes how we feel. So and the body and mind and spirit are all communicating. They're always working together all the time, even when we're not conscious of it. So we want to become conscious of it so that we can make adjustments. We want to learn about these 12 powers so that we can hear what our body is telling us, and so that we can learn to work with it, to use it wisely. And when we do that, we begin to bring ourselves into wholeness, not just physically. Yes, physically. This is important. Our body temple is important because it allows us to fulfill our mission, what our soul wants to do here in this world. We need this, right? So we want to take care of it. We want to do whatever we need to do to make sure that it's healthy, strong, and it lasts as long as we have the power to bring our divine purpose into this world. All right, so namaste.